Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1918A, and today's date is July 16th, 2019, and the title of the episode is Changing of the Guard, Patriots' Economic Move is Next. Now, before I get started, I wanted to talk about the Q coin. Have you heard about the new Q coin? Q has captured the mood of America and given a voice to a movement. You can now be a real part of that movement. This very special coin has deep meaning engraved in every space, from the 17 references to the lightning bolt, which is the key to another world. If you follow Q, this coin is a no-brainer for you. Go to greatawakeningcoin.com and use the code X22 Report to get $5 off when you buy 2 coins or more. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, we know that the central bank system, their product is debt, is control of nations. And over the many, many years, you can see how this debt system, how it weighs heavy, very heavily, on the countries and the people. Now, according to the latest IIF Global Debt Monitor, which was released today, debt around the globe hit $246 trillion in the first quarter of 2019, rising by $3 trillion in the quarter, and outpacing the rate of growth of the global economy as total debt to GDP, which rose to 320%. It's funny when these central bankers, how they're out there saying, well, Trump's tariffs, that is the problem. That's what's slowing global trade. It's not the debt, because total debt to GDP is at 320%. Now, what does this mean? It means most of the economies, most of the world cannot operate under this debt load. Think about your own household. You have an income coming in, if you're working, of course. Or maybe you're retired and you have a pension, but that is income coming in. And you have a certain amount that comes in each month. If you continually add more and more debt, what happens? Well, in the beginning, you're making this income and you have no debt. It's not bad. I can pay my rent. I can pay, my expenses. I can go out to dinner. I can do many different things. Then you get a credit card. Then you start adding a little bit of debt here. What happens? Well, maybe we won't go out to dinner this time because I have to pay that credit card bill, because now we have the debt plus interest. Then you add a little bit more debt. Now remember, your income is not moving up. It's staying the same. Or if you're getting cost of living, it's moving up by 2, 3, maybe 5%, but not much. And as you continually add debt, what happens to your household? It becomes more and more difficult to survive, because you can't go out to dinner. You're just stuck living in the house, going to work, and paying off debt. That's it. And as you keep adding more and more debt, it gets worse and worse and worse. This is what's happening to the world. Now, I know a lot of people are saying, it doesn't matter, you can just keep on adding debt. No, you can't. Because governments, with the tax receipts that are coming in from the people, they can't pay off the debt. Can they borrow more? Yes, this is what the central bankers like, because that enables them to control you. Now, the IIF, they broke down the debt, and this is how it's laid out. Household is 60% of GDP. Non-financial corporates, 91% of GDP. Government, 87% of GDP. Financial corporations, 81% of GDP. So what we're looking at right now is that the debt level is continually growing. It's at an all-time high. And eventually what happens is the system collapses. It has nothing to do with tariffs. It has to do with the central bank system. The system cannot continue on. This is why the central bankers like events. But there's a problem here. They're not getting that. Plus, Trump and the Patriots, they're reworking all their deals. All their globalist deals are being flushed down the toilet, and Trump and the Patriots, they are creating new bilateral trade agreements. So if we start to put this all together, what do we see happening here? We see that the central banks, they are stuck. And this is why when Trump continually contradicts the Fed and said, listen, don't raise rates anymore, lower rates, don't tighten anymore, push stimulus, the central bank had two choices here. One, continue on their track where they were raising rates and tightening, the economy would have collapsed. Now, if the economy would have collapsed, all eyes would have been on the central bank because they're the ones who decided to start to raise rates. They're the ones who decided to tighten. Trump would have continually called them out on this. He did in the beginning. The Federal Reserve, the ECB, the IMF, the Rothschilds, they realized, listen, they don't want to be in the spotlight. So for now, we're going to reverse everything. This is where the Fed is now listening to Trump. They're following what he is saying to do because he deprived them of their cover. And remember, central banks, they like to be in the shadows. But Trump continually brings them out into the light. He doesn't want them in the shadows. He wants them in the light. He wants everyone to notice, to see, to hear exactly what they're doing. Because once they move in a different direction, all eyes are going to be on them. Now, something very interesting. Christine LaGarde, she's been the head of the IMF. And she decided to resign her position as the head of the IMF later on September 12th. She tweeted out the following. Today, I inform the IMF board that I will resign as managing director of the International Monetary Fund. Effective September 12th, it has been a privilege to serve our 189 member countries with the devoted staff of this institution. Now, the question is, why did she resign? Well, because she's being nominated to be the president of the ECB. Mario Draghi, he's going to be stepping down. Supposedly, she's going to be taking his place. So what did she do? She decided to resign because she's a shoo-in to get the job with the ECB. So the central bankers right now, they are changing the guard. They're shuffling their players around. Now, we need to understand something about Christine LaGarde. She has no experience with central banking and no formal economic training. LaGarde received the endorsement of a group of European finance ministers last week. She will now face a vetting session and confirmation hearing in the European Parliament. Now, Christine LaGarde, she had problems when she was the finance minister in France. Now, Christine LaGarde, she became the head of the IMF, but she had to go to trial because she was accused of negligence over a 400 million euro payment to a French tycoon while she was the country's finance minister. She approved the payment from public funds to the businessman Bernard Tapie, who was a friend of then-President Nicolas Sarkozy. This negligence by a person in a position of public authority constituted a misuse of public funds, according to prosecutors. But it looks like she kind of got off. And these people never go to prison. These people always seem to be above the law. And that's what we've been watching for a very long time. But we have to understand something. Everything is changing. Think about what is happening out in the UK. Think about what is happening in Italy, what's happening in France, what's happening in Germany, what's happening in Australia. Everything is changing. Think about Ukraine right now. There's a new president in Ukraine, Zelensky. He is removing many, many individuals. What do you think is going to happen with all these other countries? Because when the person comes into the position that the deep state, the globalists, the elite don't want, these people understand that the people surrounding them, they're not helping them. They're going to be against them. This is the swamp. And since all these countries that are within Europe are about to change, what do you think is going to happen to the ECB? What do you think is going to happen once the UK leaves? Everything is going to change. This is the Patriots' next economic move. Think about it. The central bank system is trapped. They've been pushing debt for a very long time. Debt levels are just skyrocketing right now. The entire system is collapsing under the weight of debt. They have no escape. They thought they were going to have an escape through a certain event, which was going to be war. That would cover up everything. They don't have it at this point. They realize if they continued on with their agenda by raising rates and tightening, the entire system would fall apart. They would be to blame. That's why they decided we better reverse right now. Patriots are in control. They took that away from them. They want the central bank struggling. It's a setup, not just for the Fed, but for the ECB, the IMF, the Rothschilds. Remember, Q told us there are private Western central banks in most of the countries around the world. This is not going to be a task taken on by just the United States. It has to be done with other countries. This is the entire push right now. Everything is changing. The central bank, when everything is all said and done, they will be trapped. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.